Alright, so there's just some things that are just a mystery. Like the time that I went to Ross and I'm staring at a door because I'm actually looking at my phone at that moment, and all of a sudden the door that is in front of my phone, because I guess it's where they have the storage room, it's closed, and all of a sudden it just swings open by itself. And that's a mystery to me, because why it just swung open at that moment, I don't know. Was it because I was staring at it? It's a mystery, and it remains a mystery. Another mystery is the time that I went to Walmart, and I was with my friend, and he's looking at something, and he stayed behind just a few feet behind me because he was looking at something, and I proceeded to turn in to the only working price scanner in Walmart, turned down that aisle, and as I turn in, I walk maybe like 2 feet into the aisle when all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, this photo album just shoots off the shelf and lands straight, and smack dab in the middle of the aisle. And I'm looking at it, and I'm looking around to see what could have made that thing fall. Never figured it out. And it never fails. I never have my phone out. Well, I mean, I have my phone out at Ross, but I was doing something else on my phone and wasn't expecting for this door to swing open. If not, I would have recorded, right? Same thing at Walmart. I didn't expect something to happen at Walmart, but something happened. So yeah, my phone wasn't out, so I didn't record it. So of course, every time I tell someone this happened, everyone's a little skeptical. Like, are you sure you saw? Yes, I know what I saw. I'm not on drugs, okay? And even if I were, like, don't question someone. If someone says they saw something fly off a shelf, hey, just go with it, So yeah, I have my phone with me, didn't record it, which was a real shame because I felt like that's a mystery worth, recording. So today's topic is going to be about the Loch Ness Monster, because she's a mystery that we're all dying to solve. Mostly me, then. I do have a fascination with the Loch Ness Monster. Not sure why, but I do. I've been a fan of the Loch Ness Monster. She was probably my first cryptid that I ever, I guess, discovered, and was just mesmerized by how interesting, she is. And I call her a she, could be a he, no judgment. But I've always referred to Nessie, I guess because it's Nessie, as a female, and that's probably what got me into, stuff that's in the beyond. Like, is Nessie real? In my opinion, she is, and so is Bigfoot and everyone else. But I mean, it was very, very interesting, and Nessie is one of my all-time favorite mysteries. She is the missing link. You know what else is missing? The motivation for work. Yeah, that's a cryptid all on its own. Where's my motivation? I don't know. It's gone. I'll be honest. Well, for anyone who is new here, I want to welcome you to Coffee and Calacas. We are a weekly podcast, and we share stories of the supernatural, and we discuss mysticism, and we explore what else is in the beyond. I'm hoping this interests you, and you stick around for this week's episode. Alright, well, today I am drinking an iced coffee, or whatever's left of my iced coffee, in my little bunny mug. Love it. Yeah, I love mugs, and I don't really use them because I usually drink iced coffee. So every now and then when I'm feeling, extra sprightly, I'll make my coffee and just stick it in the refrigerator and let it cool off, and there you go, nice coffee. And that's happened with this one. So like I said, we're going to talk today about the Loch Ness Monster. Hopefully you guys are into the Loch Ness Monster as much as I am, because if you're not, well, you might not enjoy this episode. But I enjoy the Loch Ness Monster. Honestly, it's such an interesting creature. Like I did mention, it's probably the cryptid that got me into anything paranormal, anything supernatural, anything, that's in the beyond. Like, it's such an interesting creature. Like, what is it? Is it a monster? Is it a dragon? Is it a dinosaur, an ancient dinosaur that never died off and just stayed in the water? I mean, there's so many things that are unanswered. I mean, people say it's fake, but I am a believer. I believe that Nessie is real. I'm a big fan of Nessie. Have a little Nessie plush here. Not sure if you can see it very well on camera, but if you can't, this is my Nessie plush. Really love it. Have a matching lanyard for it too. She said resting on top of Bigfoot. Gotta love my Bigfoot too. If you see Bigfoot without the fuzzy pink bandana, let me know. I want a regular Bigfoot squishy. So anyway, Loch Ness Monster. She is affectionately known as Nessie. Who doesn't love Nessie? And she is a creature from Scottish folklore. She is said to inhabit the Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands. Now, like I said, they've sent in, people think it's fake, that it's just something that someone created, a ruse to gain attention. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Things like that do happen. But when it comes to Nessie, I really think Nessie is real. She is often described as a large, long-necked creature with one or more humps protruding from the water. So she's like a camel, but she's not. And she is categorized as a cryptid. So cryptids, if you don't know, are creatures that are how would I just say it? They're somewhat of a mystery. Okay. A cryptid is something that there's a belief to it. Let me rephrase this, okay? It's an animal that is claimed to exist, but we don't know if it actually does exist, okay? So it hasn't been proven, their existence has not been proven yet, okay? So contrary to popular belief, cryptids don't have to be supernatural, mythical, or even at all that strange, though many popular creatures acquire these characteristics as their legends grow. So cryptids can include Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster. And I want to say Nessie is probably one of the most, she is a very well-known cryptid, as is Bigfoot. You do have other cryptids who are not as popular or not as well-known, and that's fine. You don't have to have them well-known. It's just, you believe in what you believe, okay? So got lost on my notes here. Okay, so Nessie's not the only cryptid of her kind, okay? There have been other water monsters, as you could say, that have been reported, like Champ of Lake Champlain, here in the US and Canada. You have Isi in Lake Aikita, Japan, and the Lagerflot worm in Lagerflot Lake, Iceland. If I messed that up, I am sorry. I should have looked for how to pronounce it first, and I didn't. My mistake. Totally own up to that. Anyway, you do have water cryptids, and like I said, Nessie's not, and she's not the only cryptid of her kind, or water monster of her kind, but she is one that is well known, very popular. She was first sighted, I want to say, back in, if I read this correctly, back in 564. Yes. So on August 22nd of 564, some historians say Columba, a Christian leader, reported seeing an animal that would become known as the Loch Ness Monster in Loch Ness, Scotland. Columba was an Irish priest who was visiting Scotland and reportedly compelled the monster to not attack one of his followers. Okay, so I mean, not sure. So clearly this legend has been around for quite some time. And it just so happens that this guy, he's, by the water. One of his followers is in the water, maybe getting baptized, not too sure. But they're in there, and he sees this, and maybe he said a prayer and, told the monster, don't eat my crew, don't eat my man, and the monster listened. So clearly she's been around for quite some time. She is one of the most famous of creatures of cryptozoology. And cryptozoology, if you don't know, is the study of animals whose existence has not been proven, which is why she's a cryptid, because we know she exists, but we don't know she exists. Okay, her existence has not been proven. It is not a science. Okay, it's a science. It's not a science, but you know what? They also say psychology is not a science, and it's a science. Okay, learning about emotions and feelings. It's more than just, give them a hug and you're done. It's more complicated than that. I know, because I studied it. Cryptozoologists search for mythical creatures. Thousands of cultures all over the world have cryptids. So besides the Loch Ness Monster, I mentioned those other cryptids. You do have other cryptids besides water-eating cryptid or water-sucking, water-born, water monsters. You have creatures like the chupacabra. That's a cryptid. Mexican cryptid? Spanish cryptid? I don't know. Now, the chupacabra likes to attack livestock and suck out their blood. It's a creature that, is said to look sort of like a rabbit-looking dog. So they say, oh, maybe it's just a myth, right? But we don't know that. Now, the reason I like Nessie, besides being the first cryptid I ever heard of, it's, I don't know, maybe because it's so big. I remember when I was a kid, I had seen this, like, a search and find book. I think it belonged to my sister. And in there, I think you would travel the world, so every page or every 2 pages was a different area you're gonna search through. So let's say like page 1 and 2 was Houston, Texas, and you're at like a rodeo, and page 3 and 4 was New York, and you're in the park in New York. Page 5 and 6 was Scotland, and you are near a lake, and you see Nessie in the water, and I think that was one of the actual creatures you had to like circle and find. And I got a kick out of that. I always had fun, playing with that. As much as I had already like done that, search and find for so long, I always found it interesting and such a fun thing to do. Still one of my favorite kind of activities. Search and finds are my favorite things to do. But yeah, like that's kind of where I discovered Nessie. From there, I kept reading about her, reading about it, and learning what it was or what people thought it was. Who was the first person to discover a Nessie photograph? And if I'm not mistaken, I don't have it here in my notes. I guess I didn't include it. But if I'm not mistaken, Nessie was discovered, or she was photographed initially by a doctor, okay? I think the doctor was vacationing there in Scotland, and he happened to see a creature sticking out of the water, took a picture, and so that famous picture you see of Nessie, I'm going to post it on Instagram. So if you're listening to this on Spotify or you're watching this on YouTube, head out to Instagram and check that picture out. And you tell me what you think. If you think it's a hoax, it's possible. It's possible it's a hoax. But at the same time, I don't think so. I don't think so. But anyway, she was first taken a picture, like I said, by that by that doctor, a surgeon, I believe. And I believe that's how it's referred to, as the surgeon's photograph. So Nessie was first, or she was first called Nessie by I think I'm not sure if it's called a magazine, or you'd call it a, like, kind of like the National Enquirer kind of situation there. It's a published thing, you know, one of those publications that they have. I guess like a little like newspaper, but you know, one of those offbeat ones. So in August 1933, it was published of George Spicer's alleged sighting. Public interest skyrocketed, and countless letters were being sent in with different sightings. So this person sees it, reports it, and everyone's like, oh my god, bro, I saw it too. So people were describing it as a monster fish or a sea serpent, and some were even calling it a dragon. That's why I said, you know, you don't know what it is. Is it a dragon? I don't think it's a dragon. It might be a sort of like sea serpent of sorts. And you know, they were calling it the Loch Ness Monster because it was in the Loch Ness, and from there people, you know, started calling it Nessie, you know, for short. So, like I said, the first person who saw it or reported sighting of it was in 564 by Saint Columba, and he's the priest that saw it and was just overcome because he told the monster to go away, and the monster listened. And so I have a little bit more details here on what happened. So it says the earliest report of a monster in the vicinity of the Loch Ness appears in the Life of Saint Columba by Adomnan, written in the 6th century. According to Adomnan, I am sorry, that's a weird name. I can't. So anyway, let me speed up ahead. So the Irish monk was staying at the land of Picts with his companions when he encountered local residents burying a man by the river. Okay, they explained that the man was swimming in the river when he was attacked by a water beast that mauled him and dragged him under the water, despite their attempts to rescue him by boat. Columbus sent a follower in to swim across the river. The beast approached him, but Columba made the sign of the cross and said, "Go no further. Do not touch the man. Go back at once." The creature stopped as if it had been pulled back with ropes, and it fled. And Columbus' men and the Picts gave thanks for the miracle that had occurred. So yeah, he said like a bit of a prayer, I guess, you know, like sign a cross and don't you touch him. He's like, you shall not pass. He's pulling a Gandalf right there. Believers in the monster point to the story set in the River Ness rather than the loch itself. So they according to this dude, you know, he saw it in the River Ness, okay, rather than the actual loch. As evidence for the creature's existence as early as in the 6th century, skeptics question whether it's actually, you know, reliable. Like, how do we really know that that's what happened? Okay. Then in 1871 or 1822, in between that time frame, Mackenzie of Balmain reportedly saw an object resembling a log wriggling and turning up the water, moving slowly at first before disappearing at a faster speed. So this account wasn't actually published until 1934, when Mackenzie sent his story in a letter to Rupert Gould. Once interest in the monster, you know, took up. Okay, so he saw it, but he didn't actually report it until years later. And because I guess people started reporting at that point, he's like, hey, well, maybe I should speak up a little bit, right? And he said it looked like kind of like a little lump in the water, a little log. And what I have read is reports that people do describe like a little, like, they do say it's like a log in the water, just floating, and then it moves, and you're like, oh, that's bigger than a log. That's, you know, it looks like a creature of some sort. And in 1888, a man by the name of Alexander MacDonald reported it as well, saying he sighted a large, stubby-legged animal surfacing from the loch and propelling itself within 50 yards of the shore where McDonald stood. McDonald's reported his sighting to Loch Ness water bailiff Alex Campbell and described the creature as looking like a salamander. Now, I know in one reporting, someone had said that it was possibly like a mutated creature. So, saying that some people said that it's maybe a mutated creature that's in the water, or it was in the water, and people are over exaggerating what they see because it just looks different. So in their own minds, they're creating this creature that doesn't actually exist. So in 1933, the best-known article that first attracted a great deal of attention about a creature was published on May 2nd, 1933. And it was about a large beast, or whale-like fish. The article by Alex Campbell, water bailiff for Loch Ness and a part-time journalist, discussed a sighting by Aldi McKay of an enormous creature with the body of a whale rolling in the water in the loch while she and her husband John were driving on the A82 on April 15th, 1933. The word monster was reportedly applied to the first time in Campbell's article, although some reports claim that it was coined by the editor, Evan Barron, who was the one that actually made the report. In 2017, the Courier, which is the publication that did this, published excerpts from Campbell's article, which had been titled "Strange Spectacle in Loch Ness." And this is a quote from that, and it says, "The creature disported itself, rolling and plunging for fully a minute, its body resembling that of a whale, and the water cascading and churning like a simmering cauldron. Soon, however, it disappeared in a boiling mass of foam. Both onlookers confessed that there was something uncanny about the whole thing, for they realized that here was no ordinary denizen of the depths, because apart from its enormous size, the beast, in taking the final plunge, sent out waves that were big enough to have been caused by a passing steamer." So taking just reading that itself, and you take that into mind. I mean, using my plush here just for quick, yeah. I mean, if you were to pull the legs in, it could have a rather large body, somewhat whale shape-ish, stubby legs. Yeah, it has some stubby-ish legs, some limbs, long neck. I mean, and mind you, this is a plush. It's a toy. Not going to be the best kind of example, but yeah, you could see how someone could see this and be like, yeah, that's a pretty large, whale thing. So imagine this in a lake of sorts, and it's gonna go in. So yeah, it could be something that's like trying to, I guess, turn itself around, and upon doing that, it sees people, it's, trying to go into the water, and it churns. So yeah, upon churning, it's going to kick up the water, and then as it dives in, it's gonna splash, and so yeah, that splash is gonna be significant. Now, how significant? According to them, to the onlookers, it was as if a passing steamer had sent out those waves. And it's possible, by the size of the creature, if it's large enough, yeah, it's possible. Sorry about that. I really feel like I was going to sneeze, and it's allergies. Plus I have a candle, burning in the background. Candle's not strong. It smells really good. It smells like pizza. So it's not the candle's fault. It's just allergies, and I didn't take allergy medication today. So I feel like I want to sneeze. So if I do sneeze, I apologize. I'm trying not to. But yeah. Anyways, as I was saying before my brain focused in on my sneeze, was that yeah, it's possible for a creature of that magnitude to cause up a bit of a ruckus and a bit of a, enough to make a big splash. So in 2013, in an article, McKay said, okay, so McKay is the person who reported this case. She was the one that said her and her husband had seen this, okay? So in an article in 2013, she says she had yelled, "Stop the beast," when she saw the spectacle. And in the 80s, a person had interviewed her, and she admitted to knowing that there had been an oral tradition of a beast in the loch well before she claimed her sighting. Okay, so that's what was reported in the 80s. That, according to her, she knew that there was a legend that there's a beast in the water, and then she goes ahead and makes a report about it. Okay. Alex Campbell's 1933 article also stated that Loch Ness has for generations been credited with being the home of a fearsome-looking monster. Now, this is years ago, so who knows if this Loch Ness Monster is still alive. I mean, I would hope so. I would really hope so, but if it isn't, I mean, it's possible because, it's been so many years. You can only have so much, can only live so long. She's not Nicholas Flamel. Or is she? So, George Spicer, I believe he's the one that took the picture of the animal. Let me see. Was he the one? No, he wasn't. Sorry. Again, my notes are all over the place today. So modern interest in the monster was sparked by a sighting on July 22nd, 1933, when Spicer and his wife saw a most extraordinary animal cross the road in front of their car. They described the creature as having a large body. They said about 4 feet high and about 25 feet long, narrow neck, slightly thicker than an elephant's trunk, and as long as a 10 to 12 foot width of a road. They saw no limbs. It lurched across the road toward the loch 20 yards, leaving a trail of broken undergrowth in its wake. Okay, so just reading that, basically what he's saying is that this creature was not just waterborne, water-based. It was on land at one point, crossed, into and got into the water. So could that be the reason why no one finds it in the water? It's possible. It is so possible. Look at Bigfoot. There is so many. You have a lot of people who go out there to find it. So when they're out there in the wilderness, they're looking for Bigfoot, but yet they never come across it, right? Land is weird. You can have underground tunnels and hidden areas behind caves and caverns and stuff like that. So it's possible these creatures hide. They know they're being looked for. They hide. So it's possible something happens with Nessie where it knows it's being looked for, and so it gets out of the water and hides. So yeah, according to Spicer, Nessie left a lot of broken stuff in its path. It was described sort of as a dragon. Okay, Spicer says it looked like a prehistoric animal. Okay, it had a long neck which moved up and down, and it had an animal in its mouth. So if it was on land, we're assuming here that it's not a water animal it has in its mouth. It's probably like a little rabbit, a bird possibly. So if it's eating an animal, also not just an herbivore. So he says it had a body that was fairly big with a high back, but if there were any feet, they must have been sort of webbish, because it had a tail and it moved so fast that when they got to the spot, it had probably where it jumped into the water, they couldn't see it anymore. So it was a fast creature for that size. I mean, it's hard to I have a pug and I have a Yorkie. My Yorkie's a little bit more sprightly than my pug, but my pug is still pretty fast. So I'm imagining this big creature, big enough that, hey, it's going to be noticeable, but if it's fast, I mean, it has to be fast for a reason. That's probably why it's been alive for so long. Then you have Hugh Grey. He's the the photographer. Hugh Grey's photograph, taken in 1933, was the first photograph alleged to depict the monster. It was slightly blurred, and it has been noted that if one looks closely to them, it looks like a head of a dog. Grey had taken his lab for a walk that day, and it is suspected that the photograph depicts his dog fetching a stick from the loch. Others have suggested that the photograph depicts an otter or a swan. The original negative was lost, so you can't find it to take a look at it to really see what happened there. However, in 1963, Maurice Burton came into possession of 2 lantern slides, contact positives from the original negative, and were projected onto a screen. They revealed an otter rolling at the surface in characteristic fashion. That's an otter, I guess. I don't know. Doesn't look like an otter to me. It looks like Nessie. That's what it looks like. So yeah, Hugh Grey is the one that had the photograph. On January 5th, 1934, a motorcyclist named Arthur Grant claimed to have nearly hit the creature when approaching Abercon, near the north end of the loch, at about 1 a.m. on a moonlit night. According to Grant, it had a small head attached to a long neck. The creature saw him and crossed the road back to the loch. Grant, a veterinary student, described it as a cross between a seal and a plesiosaur. Plesiosaur. I am so sorry. I'm a little blind. He said he dismounted and followed it to the loch, but he only saw ripples once it jumped into the water. So this guy knows animals. He's a veterinary student. So I believe that whatever he saw, it's a pretty good description of it. And clearly it's crossing the water, it's not in the water again. So this thing has to also live outside the water. Grant produced a sketch of the creature, and it was examined by zoologist Maurice Burton, who stated it was consistent with the appearance and behavior of an otter. Regarding the long size of the creature reported by Grant, it has been suggested that this was a faulty observation due to the poor light conditions. So they're saying that he's just a little crazy. He's seeing things, it's an otter, but it just looks big because it was dark. Paleontologist Darren Naish has suggested that Grant may have either seen an otter or a seal and exaggerated his sighting over time. I don't know. No say. So for the surgeon's photograph, I think that was published in 1934 as well, and that's when we really see the neck of Nessie. For 60 years, people thought the picture was evidence of the monster's existence, but you did have skeptics saying that it's just a bunch of driftwood. Could have been an elephant, that was an otter or a bird, that it just wasn't real. That people are saying it was a crop photo, it wasn't the full photo. So it was a lot of negative feedback came from that photo. People were saying that people have found Nessie footprints, and those turn out to be a hoax, and that's the thing. You have some people who really take it to an extreme. So anyone who wants to really believe in something, or may have actually seen something, may not be so compelled to want to come forth with the information they have, because they don't want to be told they're a liar, that it's a hoax, and be made fun of. In 1938, South African tourist G.E. Taylor filmed something in the loch for 3 minutes. They said that in there, you see something, but you don't actually get a full glimpse of what it is. The film was obtained by popular science writer Maurice Burton, who did not show it to other researchers. A single frame was published in his 1961 book, The Elusive Monster, and his synopsis concluded it was a floating object, not an animal. Now, why he would not show the video to anyone else, we don't know. But that would have been something great to actually have, to have witnessed. If it's just a floating object, then show us the video, man. Why can't we see it? Why keep it hidden? Maybe because it was something more and he just doesn't want to disturb it. Who knows? The sonar readings in 54, there was a bunch of sonar readings that were taken of the actual loch, and they noticed that a large object kept keeping pace with the vessel. It was detected for 800 meters before the contact was lost and regained. Previous sonar attempts were inconclusive for negative. So they, this crew did their sonar, and yeah, it was keeping up with something, but they weren't sure what it was. Okay, contact was lost for a second, and then with the sonar, but then the sonar was regained, but whatever was there was just had disappeared. On May 2007, so I have a long timeline here, and some of the stuff kind of repeats about people citing things and things like that, but trying to catch us up to modern times with how it's being seen. So there was even a Muppet about it, saying that people, it's just a bunch of someone making a little hoax with a Muppet and things like that. Okay, we're gonna fast forward to 2007. In May 26, 2007, 55-year-old laboratory technician Gordon Holmes videotaped what he said was this jet black thing about 14 meters long moving fairly fast in the water. Adrian Shine, a marine biologist at the Loch Ness 2000 Center in Drummondoy, described the footage as among the best footage he had ever seen. BBC Scotland broadcast the video on May 29, 2007. And he was interviewed. The Marine was interviewed as well, and they suggested the footage was of an otter, a seal, or a water bird, that it wasn't the Loctus. Now, I haven't seen that video myself. I should have Googled it. I should have, pulled it up, but I didn't. But I can only imagine. I'm pretty sure I've seen it, though. I feel like I've seen it. I just don't recall it too well. But just based off of that, if someone's saying it's a really good video, I don't know. I feel like in 2007, cameras were a lot different, then than in the 30s, of course. So whatever video you do capture would be pretty, noticeable to say, hey, that is just a piece of driftwood, or more than just an otter. But, and how big are otters in Scotland that people are confusing them with a big sea creature? I mean, I've gone to like aquariums and zoos, and I've seen otters there, and I mean, they're sizable, but not sizable, I mean, they're not huge, but they're fairly, sizable creature, maybe about the size of a medium dog, maybe a large dog. But you're not gonna confuse a large dog in the water for a sea monster. I mean, at least I wouldn't. In 2011, George Edwards took a picture, and he said it was Nessie. Apparently, Edwards claims to have searched for the monster for 26 years and reportedly spent 60 hours per week on the loch aboard his boat to take pictures. And Edwards said, in his opinion, it looks more like a manatee, but not a mammal. When people see three hums, they're probably just seeing the three separate monsters. That's according to him. Okay. Other researchers have questioned the photograph's authenticity, and Loch Ness researcher Stephen Feltham suggests that the object in the water is a fiberglass hump used in a National Geographic Channel documentary in which Edwards had participated. Researcher Dick Rayner has questioned Edwards' claim of discovering a deeper bottom of Loch Ness, which Rayner calls Edwards Deep. He found inconsistencies between Edwards' claims for the location and conditions of the photograph and the actual location and weather conditions that day. According to Rayner, Edwards told him he had faked a photograph in '86 and he claimed was genuine in the Nat Geo documentary. Okay. So this guy, maybe he felt like a quick way to make a buck would be to lie, and so he creates his own Loch Ness and tries to sell it as that. People say that yes, it's real. Others say that no, he's just full of it. Apple Maps photograph came. So on April 19, 2014, it was reported that a satellite image on Apple Maps showed what appeared to be a large creature just below the surface of Loch Ness at the loch's far north. The image appeared about 30 meters, about 90 feet long. Possible explanations were the wake of a boat with the boat itself lost in the image stitching or low contrast, or that a seal caused ripples, or it's a floating piece of wood. Just get with it. Just say, yeah, we found Loch Ness and she's in there. Jeez. And in 2015, Google commemorated the 81st anniversary of the surgeon's photograph with a Google Doodle, and added a new feature to the Google Street View, with which users can explore the loch above and below the water. Google reportedly spent a week at Loch Ness collecting imagery with a Street View tracker camera, and attached it to a boat to photograph above the surface, and collaborating with members of the Caitlin Sea View survey to photograph underwater. So I haven't tried that just yet, but I think I'm going to do that after this, to check that out. Check it out too. Let's see what we can find. Two eyes are better than, or a second pair of eyes is better than just one set, right? But okay, so that's the kind of like the timeline of what's been going on with Nessie so far. Okay, people have spotted it. Then it turns out they're claiming that they're faking it. Could it be government goes after them and says, don't talk about it, here's a sum of money for you to keep your mouth shut so people don't question? It's possible. It's super possible. So I don't see why not, right? What do you think? What do you think about the Loch Ness Monster? Who wants to go with me to Scotland to go see if we can find the Loch Ness Monster ourselves? Because I'm curious about it. If you're down to go, comment down below. Make a little comment. Send me an email or something, and we'll set up a little team and we'll go out there to Loch Ness ourselves, and we'll find the monster. We're gonna find Nessie. So what do you think? Do you think that Nessie is real, or is it just a bunch of BS that people make up to get some money? Let me know. I really hoped you enjoyed this episode on the Loch Ness Monster, on little Nessie here. If you didn't, stick around. I'm sure we have an episode out here or in that either you've listened to and you enjoy, or we're gonna have something that's gonna come up. If you want a particular episode, on a particular topic, send me an email, message me, comment down below, send a message on Instagram. I'm happy to share a topic or look at a topic that you suggest. So follow Coffee and Calacas on social media. You can visit our webpage at galacaspod.com, and we do have links to all our social media accounts on there. Like and subscribe for all the latest content. It helps keep this page alive. And remember that life begins after coffee.